So we've been putting a lot of focus on what Republicans in Congress have been proposing and voting on, things like, I don't know, the Mamdani Act from Chip Roy, which would give them the authority to denaturalize and deport U.S. citizens who are communists or socialists. Of course, you have funding for the Iran war, which would include even more healthcare cuts. You have funding for ICE. And I always say, and I will always maintain the position, at least for now, that Democrats by and far suck. Of course, there are very notable exceptions, but there's still a night and day difference between both parties when you look at the record, what each party is proposing legislation wise. And I hate to break it to you, but Democrats win every single time when you look at the record. Now, I do have some critiques of this bill we're about to cover, but focusing on what Democrats in Congress are doing, they just proposed a bill that would triple the minimum wage that hasn't been increased since like 2009 from $7.25 an hour to $25 an hour. So this legislation from Representatives Delia Ramirez and Ana Lilia Mejia won't be going anywhere while Republicans control the House and Senate. That's a given, but this is still important nonetheless. It pushes the conversation. It puts it back into the the realm of debate, and it just puts more eyes on it. So regardless of what the final vote is, this is still important and something that Democrats should be highlighting. Anyways, Democrats, it is signaling that Democrats are moving well beyond the $15 minimum wage. That was the party's rallying cry for several years, especially as families continue to feel the squeeze of inflation. People are working full-time jobs and still cannot afford to live, Ramirez said. She said the current minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is not a living wage. That is a wage to keep you poor and barely keep you living. Well, let's be honest, this isn't even just like it's not even to keep you living. You cannot afford to live on $7.25 an hour in any state, any county in the entire US. There's been studies on this. The bill would provide a several-year phase-in period and give smaller firms more time to adjust. Large employers that have at least 500 workers or $1 billion in gross annual revenue would hit $25 by 2031. Employers that don't meet those criteria would have until 2038. Ramirez said the gradual phase-in would ensure small businesses are able to get to $25 an hour. So this is the part I have most issue with. To 2038, what is that? That's 12 years from now. I understand it would gradually go up, but inflation has been going up more, and we're already very far behind what the minimum wage should be when adjusted for inflation. People are hurting now. They need this relief now. I understand that there does have to be some degree of phase-in, and I don't disagree with that. But it should be much shorter. And if you're worried about small businesses going under, then this is where we should take, I don't know, the $70 billion that we're giving to ICE and take that to something more productive, like providing subsidies to these businesses until a certain period just to make sure that they don't go under. But no, we would rather give $200 billion more to the war in Iran. Well, actually, no, it's like $200 billion, like $600 billion more because they want to make the Pentagon a $1.5 trillion budget. So instead of doing that or giving $70 billion to ICE, maybe we could just do something productive like this. So that is my biggest disagreement here. But at the end of the day, this is what I want to see more of, this kind of legislation. We need solutions, not the generic, oh, we need to address the cost of living, or we aren't Trump. That's not going to win you elections. You have to give people something. You have to propose bold, dare I say, radical policy if you want to win and actually improve people's lives moving forward. Anyways, the federal minimum wage hasn't budged since 2009 after a series of increases were passed under George W. Bush. Yeah, just think about that. George W. Bush was the last president to increase the minimum wage, and he increased it several times. Now, George Bush is I don't know, the third worst president of all time, but come on. That is just how, just insane and how much corporate lobbying and super PACs have just destroyed our political system. A majority of states, including several red ones, have raised their own wage floors in lieu of action from Congress, but the low rate of $7.25 still prevails in 16 states. 16 states, and of course, many of them are in the South, are still at $7.25 an hour. And even I've looked at the minimum wage for each state. In fact, we've done videos on it. There's still a lot of red states where, yeah, they're not at $7.25 an hour, but they're at something like $11 an hour or $12 an hour, something that is nowhere near enough. Again, people are hurting now. They need this change now. In some states, restaurants can still pay servers as little as $2.13 an hour, provided tips bring the wages up to regular minimum wage. A handful of House Democrats have gotten on board with the $25 proposal, and those are those reps. And it also has the backing of labor unions such as the Service Employees International Union and National Education Association, and the advocacy group One Fair Wage, which has pushed for years to abolish the tipped minimum wage. A handful of blue states now have minimum wages set at around $17 per hour, while some blue cities with high cost of living are approaching $20 per hour. Last year, San Diego's city council passed a law that will push the minimum wage for certain hospitality workers to $25 per hour by 2030. Yes, like this, although I have like some disagreements with the overall timeline and how you're kind of implementing this, again, this is what you need to be doing. But like, again, this doesn't take away from the fact that when you look at the record, even though Democrats aren't doing nearly enough, they are still at least trying to do something. We've, of course, covered they propose legislation like, I don't know, free school, lunch, and breakfast, while Republicans try to pass legislation to prevent even blue states from doing that. And of course, you have this bill, you have the bills to end the war with Iran, you have the bill to prevent a war with Cuba. Like I always say, the worst thing a Democrat in office can do is nothing, or their little like tweaks around the edges that they have just, that's all they're like capable of doing. Republicans, on the other hand, well, look at the big beautiful bill. No tax on tips. I understand that sounds good, but like I want to live in a society where we have pretty much eliminated the tips economy, the gig economy as a whole, because people shouldn't have to rely on gig economy jobs or on tips as their primary source of income. They should be backed by a federal minimum wage that allows you to actually live if you work full time. But yeah, anyways, that's all I have for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.